Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with Extra History. And tonight we're back here with part 3 of John Brown. Tonight we got Bleeding Kansas, aka John Brown's about to go hog wild on the pro-slavery party. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Let's just say Bleeding Kansas is about to live up to its name. Just watch and learn. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy it. Let's go.
May 22nd, 1856. The Senate Chamber, Washington, D.C.
I remember
Representative
this, right?
Preston Brooks walks into the hall, 2 other congressmen at his back, stopping by the desk of Senator Charles Sumner. 2 days before, Sumner had delivered a fiery speech called The Crime Against Kansas, excoriating his slaveholding colleagues, especially Senator Andrew Butler. Mr. Sumner, Brooks says, I have read your speech twice over carefully. It is libel in South Carolina, and Mr. Butler is a relative of mine. Sumner barely looks up before Brooks raises his gold-headed walking cane and brings it down on Sumner's head. Again and again. Brooks's allies then pull weapons and prevent other senators from intervening. Trapped between his chair and desk, Sumner can't rise or defend himself. But finally, he extricates himself and staggers away, blinded by blood. Brooks follows, still beating Sumner with his now broken cane, even as he loses consciousness. Blood begins to pool on the Senate floor. Blood that will run as far as Kansas.
Jesus. I'll point it out later.
Would you like to see the next episode of this series immediately after watching this one instead of having to wait a full week? Well, luckily with Nebula First, you totally can. Learn how after the episode. The caning of Charles Sumner was a symbolically crucial moment, one that demonstrated how polarized the nation had become over slavery. It was also the event that pushed John Brown over the edge.
Yeah, I'll be real. If I saw that on the Senate floor, I'd be like, well, this country's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm off to England. Like, seriously. What kind of government allows that to happen? Like, seriously. If no one stops, like, Brooks here, like, trying to kill a guy, like, seriously, he kept hitting him when... like, his cane broke. Like, if that wasn't about to kill someone, I don't know what will. Like, seriously. And, let's be real. If that happened today, that dude would be fired and ostracized from both political parties. Like, that's just political suicide nowadays, you know? Good God. Like, I think we could all agree on that part, right? But, jeez. No wonder this thing pushed him over the edge. It probably pushed me over the edge. Like, sheesh.
Brown arrived in Kansas in late 1855 to find his 5 sons living in crisis. They were sick, short on food, and living in tents within a small settlement they'd named Brown's Station. As quickly as he could, he nursed them back to health and knocked together a couple of log cabins to ride out the bitter winter that was just around the corner. But cold wasn't the only danger. Brown's Station and the nearby abolitionist settlement of Osawatomie, where Brown's in-laws lived, were surrounded by pro-slavery settlers determined to drive them out. These men had threatened Brown's sons and relatives, they'd passed written death threats to 2 men Brown knew, and beaten a local shopkeeper. In one particularly nasty incident, they'd cornered a young woman who'd been helping Brown's son Frederick make bullets for Free State militias and threatened to sexually assault her. And elsewhere in Kansas, threats had become very real. A pro-slavery man shot and killed his abolitionist neighbor, and then, in the depths of that icy winter, a Free State man was hacked to death and his frozen body parts dumped on his own doorstep. Kansas was rapidly heading towards civil war, and Brown, founded his own militia company, getting ready to fight if need be. Also, after the fraudulent elections of 1855, where pro-slavery militias had captured the state legislature, the Free State camp decided to hold their own elections and form their own government. So yeah, now there were 2 rival governments in Kansas, one pro-slavery and one Free State, both with armed militias. However, the Franklin Pierce administration, staunchly pro-slavery and happy to ignore the flagrant electoral cheating, considered the Free State rebels and allowed the new governor to appoint Missouri militia leaders as sheriffs. This essentially let the border ruffians, not only Missourians now, but mercenaries and volunteers from all over the South, harass Free Staters under the cover of law. In April of
Wow.
1856, Sheriff Samuel Jones, a border ruffian leader, entered the abolitionist capital of Lawrence on a mission to arrest leaders of the Free State Legislature. When he
That
was
is
eventually
messed up.
shot and driven out of town, he then convinced a grand jury to give him legal power to crush Lawrence, and he returned on May 21st with an army of 800 border ruffians. Now, a similar standoff the previous year had been de-escalated, but not this time. The border ruffians surrounded Lawrence, disarmed the residents, and sacked the town. They broke windows and destroyed a legislator's house. They smashed the presses of 2 abolitionist newspapers, and they attacked the largest, strongest building in town, the Free State Hotel. First with a cannon, then detonating gunpowder in the lobby, and when none of that worked, simply by burning it down. Though there were few casualties, the property devastation was considerable. And as luck would have it, John Brown heard about the sacking of Lawrence and the caning of Senator Sumner on the same day. He was furious. Now,
I'd
to
be
this
pissed
point,
too.
the violence and threats in Kansas had been incredibly one-sided. Oh, but no more. If they wanted violence, he would give them violence. Enough that these border ruffians would think twice before threatening or attacking another Free Stater. Basically,
Yeah, pretty much. Like, seriously. You gonna go after me like that? Expect some deadly retribution. Like, seriously. You gonna do that? Well, down to that. Like, seriously. You gonna sack a town like that? You lost that right. And let's be real. No one would endorse this. No one.
they hecked around, and now they were gonna
They're gonna find out.
Brown handpicked a team from his militia company, consisting of his sons Owen, Solomon, Frederick, and Oliver, plus 2 men who'd also been threatened. They took
So
along
4
old
brothers
U.S. Army
and-
broadswords with mercury-filled channels in the blades, so the liquid metal increased the force of the swing. Then they targeted the neighbors who'd harassed and threatened them. First, there was James Doyle and his 2 sons that we talked
opened
about in
this series?
episode 1. They hacked all 3 men to death in their front yard. They did the same for another militiaman, and at a 3rd cabin, they found nearly half a dozen men. Through questioning them, they found only one who was in fact a border ruffian and killed him as well. It was the start of John Brown's war on slavery. As far as he was concerned, it was ridiculous to consider the killing of a few oppressors too high a price, given the millions of Black Americans who were abused, beaten, raped, and murdered due to the practice of slavery. But gut check
wrong there.
if you're feeling a little queasy about this. That makes sense, because while Brown's logic about liberation might be sound, this kind of violence always triggers reprisals and escalation. Brown's actions, called the Potawatomi Massacre, was the starting gun for the factions to go at it. In the next 4 years, at least 56 political killings occurred during what came to be called Bleeding Kansas. And it would culminate in an incident where border ruffians lined 11 unarmed Free Staters up at the edge of a ravine and shot them execution style. But that was the future. Right now in this historical tale, both militias and U.S. Army troops hunted Brown. One militia burned Brown's station and arrested 2 of Brown's sons who had nothing to do with the killings, even torturing John Jr. Brown responded by rallying the 13 men of his militia company and attacking the 55-strong border ruffian encampment, besieging their circled wagons in the Battle of Blackjack and taking 23 prisoners. By now, both sides were trading attacks, stealing livestock, and destroying crops. And on August 30th, a group of over 250 border ruffians came for Brown at Osawatomie. The only Brown they found was Frederick. One of Brown's favorite sons, Frederick struggled with mental illness, and his father had always tried to both include him in the family struggle while also protecting him. At Potawatomi, he served as a lookout, not a killer, and he'd been kept away from the fighting at Blackjack. A scout found him walking down the town's main street and shot him through the heart. Brown's militia went into action, trying to defend the town against the force 5 to 10 times their number equipped with cannons, but it was truly no use. He withdrew and watched them burn the town to the ground. It was a deep and personal loss, but Brown's bravery at Osawatomie and his growing reputation as a guerrilla leader had begun to turn him into a sort of folk hero. The citizens of Lawrence cheered him when he next entered the town. Northern newspapers, whose reporters he'd cultivated, lauded him, while Southern presses called him a murderer and fumed that he had not yet been caught. He was increasingly becoming known to friend and foe alike, simply as Old Brown. Oh, and his enemies in Kansas feared him. There was a real sense that if any pro-slavery man decided to pick up a weapon, Old Brown might come for them in the night. And as the violence escalated, backfiring on the Pierce administration, the government increasingly changed its policies to try to curb the bloodshed, even at the
Too
cost
late.
of Kansas becoming a free state. But by then, Brown was no longer in Kansas. Rather, he was in Boston and New York, meeting with the wealthy benefactors who had bought weapons for the Free Staters. He was a celebrity there, the one man who'd finally stood up to Southern violence when other abolitionists had offered only petitions, letters, and newspaper editorials. And what Brown wanted now was simple: more money and more guns. He met opposition. In one meeting, he went head-to-head with William Lloyd Garrison, the Liberator editor and advocate for nonviolent abolitionism. Brown went hard at Garrison for his ideas of gradual emancipation. I mean, could enslaved people wait while they were whipped, their families sold, and their wives and daughters subject to assault? Brown got his rifles, including funding from a more radical group of benefactors who called themselves the Secret Six, who were willing to back him for more than keeping up the struggle in Kansas. Which was good, because Brown was done running guns to Kansas. Indeed, he was assembling a strike team to hit a new target: the Federal Armory at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. John Brown was about to take his war for liberation to the heart of the South. And if you can't wait to...
Yep, we're about to head over to the Harper's Ferry raid and, well, the end of the journey for John Brown. Which, yeah, I'll be real, if they were allowing, like, the border ruffians to get away with that, I'd probably be, okay, you know what, screw the peace talks. It ain't gonna stop until those Southerners realize, hey, you can't push us around anymore. Yeesh. I mean, fair enough, but anyway, let me know what you guys think of this one. Jeez, poor John. And until next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya.